Welcome to KSR Data Vision YouTube channel. In this video, we'll look at one of the recently being a famous cloud computing service, which is GCP. Now I'll talk about GCP. We'll focus on when it was launched and we'll see what are the services which we have with respect to GCP. And also we can focus on how it is different from the other cloud computing. And of course, at last, we'll see how it is useful for our data engineering pipeline. To start with, GCP stands for Google Cloud Platform. As in then the name implies, it is actually the complete service being provided by one of the top cloud, which is Google. Now, it runs exactly on the same infrastructure that what we have for the Google, where Google is using for other products. So you may be saying Google Maps, Google Play Store, right? Gmail. So on whatever the platform the the Google is running, the same infrastructure is being provided for this GCP as well. It is actually launched in April 2008. Now you'll be thinking about 2008 and we are in 2024. Why we did not talk about this cloud service for all these years? Well, in the recent times, the cloud computing is becoming famous because of the heavy lifting data that we have to work upon. And now we are getting into track like which cloud service to use. Of course, we do have other two giants, AWS and Azure, but GCP is also being used widely in the current market because of its specific use case. Now, the other thing about Google is the Google data centers are located in various regions, but they have never disclosed where they have the actual data centers because of the privacy and security purpose. And of course, it's third in the list with 11% market share. Now, though it's a third in the list, it's not about which position it is holding, but which companies are opting for GCP is what really matters. Now, let's talk about the use cases. Now, with this GCP cloud service, just like any other cloud service, we can start building and deploying the web applications. We can also focus on the mobile applications. Whether if you're like for your company, if you're like hosting a website, yes, it's possible. If you want to store a huge data, yes, you can still store it. Now, for all the other cloud service, whatever features we have, we also have with respect to GCP. But GCP provides one upper hand to work with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this is where I would say GCP has a bit of advantage. And also we can develop chatbots, we can use it for your data recoveries, everything. All in all, this will be considered as one of the complete cloud service that we can use it for our system. Now, in terms of services, what we can have compute engine. So basically, if you want to have a virtual machines for your system, for your applications, you can use as a compute engine. And as in then one of the biggest problem every company has nowadays is to store their data. And we do have cloud storage for that. Now this cloud storage is capable of storing your big data in terms of files, in terms of data points, everything you can store it here. And talking about the Cloud SQL, all in all, we know how to work with the on-premises managed databases, but here we are working with Cloud SQL, and which is very much a database which is present on the GCP cloud. And we also have a BigQuery which can be used for the analytical purpose. And finally, I would like to talk about the AI platforms. Now, GCP provides one of the very good features for building and deploying your machine learning algorithms. So this is something better than the other cloud service. Now, these are the services which we have. Of course, I've just handpicked which we are using in the real time. Now it's time for us to decide what is GCP at good at, right? So as I said, right, each one has their own pros and cons, right? Each cloud service will have advantages as well as disadvantages. Now let's look at GCP's advantage, or I could say unique features, how it is different from the other two clouds. Now I'm not here to compare the cloud service. Each one has their own use case. Now I'm talking about GCP, where we can use GCP, in which scenario we can use GCP, and how it is going to helpful for our pipelines. That will be our discussion. Now, one of the fastest and largest network that has been recently evolved is Google's GCP, right? We know how branded companies Google, right? There is no ever competitor for Google products. And that is one reason that this is growing and becoming bigger and bigger day by day in terms of usage. And Google's infrastructure is being considered one of the superior speed and the top class quality services that we have with respect to what we wanted to use for our applications. And the very important point you need to understand is GCP's AI, the artificial intelligence, is best among the other cloud computing. Now, this makes this a unique cloud service, a standout between the other cloud service because it provides a lot of AI features. All in all, just like every other cloud service, they also charge for how much we use, and we also have a different subscriptions available for different usage. And one of the other feature which I wanted to talk about GCP is it is widely recognized for its strength in terms of analytics. Now we are all into the analytics field. Now this provides a major upper hand when we compare it with analytics. Now you'll have a question. Okay, I have either learned AWS or I have learned Azure. Now why again GCP? So as and then the demand is improving over the cloud service, knowing more than one cloud service is always an advantage. Assuming that you know Azure, now let's compare how Azure data engineering and GCP data engineering, how can we compare? If you see the between what has been written, the purpose, we are using for the pipeline building, right? So the first one, if you see general purpose storage, we can use to store the files. In Azure, we already have a block storage which can store in the form of files. Now the equivalent service that we can use it in GCP will be Google Cloud Storage. Now as and then you learn one cloud service, the other will become exactly the same. Just the components, features, configurations will change. Rest of the things will remain same. Now let's move on to the big data storage. Now we are into the big data world where we are getting the data in the form of a big files. And for that, in Azure, we used to use a Azure Data Lake storage, whereas in GCP, we can go with the cloud storage or we can also use Cloud Big Table. Now that's the equivalent. The left and right, if you see, it's just the services that I can use for different purpose. For ETL, of course, in Azure, we have Azure Data Factory, and in GCP, we have Cloud Data Fusion. And talking about the relational database, of course, when you want to store it as a target table, we use a relational database. But here we are using Azure SQL database. There we are using Google Cloud SQL. And as and then if you want to secure your information, we have Azure Key Vault where we call it as GCKMS, which is nothing but Google Cloud Key Management Service. And of course, for the data warehousing, we have a Synopsys Analytics, whereas in Azure we have Azure Databricks, and in terms of the GCP we have Dataproc. Now this is how we can compare between your GCP and Azure. And as I said, data engineering pipelines can be built with any services, and here is a comparison. All in all, which cloud to choose, it all depends on your company, client, need, features, configurations, pricing, and pros and cons. With that, thank you so much for watching. We'll come back with an additional video.